for her beauty was not in itself incomparable, nor such as to strike those who saw her, but the contact of her presence had an irresistible charm. Plutarch, Life of Antony. The sun rises over the Mediterranean. Its golden light spills across the marble palaces and bustling ports of Alexandria, the jewel of Egypt. And within those walls, a young queen prepares to face destiny. Her name, Cleopatra VII Philopator, the last pharaoh of Egypt. The woman whose beauty, intelligence, and ambition changed the course of empires, and whose death would mark the end of ancient Egypt itself. Long before Cleopatra's reign, Egypt had stood as one of the greatest civilizations in human history, a land of gods and kings, pyramids and mysteries. But by the 1st century before Christ, that ancient glory had faded. Egypt was no longer ruled by native pharaohs, but by a Greek dynasty, descendants of Ptolemy I, a general of Alexander the Great. Cleopatra was born into this world of cultural fusion, a queen who spoke Greek but also Egyptian, the first of her line to do so. Her very name, Cleopatra, meant glory of her father. And from her birth in 69 BC, she was destined to wear the double crown of Egypt, the symbol of divine power and human burden. At only 18 years old, Cleopatra ascended the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. But the kingdom she inherited was crumbling, torn apart by famine, corruption, and political intrigue. Meanwhile, far away in Rome, a new storm was rising. Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great were locked in a civil war that would decide the fate of the Republic. When Pompey fled to Egypt seeking refuge, he found instead his death. Beheaded by the advisors of Ptolemy XIII, his severed head presented to Caesar as a gift. But Caesar wept, not in gratitude, but in grief and disgust. It was then that Cleopatra saw her opportunity. Legend says Cleopatra entered Caesar's presence rolled inside a carpet. When the cloth unfurled, the Roman general beheld the young queen, radiant, clever, and fearless. In that moment, politics became passion. Together, they waged war against her brother's forces, and when victory came, Ptolemy XIII drowned in the Nile. Cleopatra was now Queen of Egypt, and soon after, mother of Caesarion, Little Caesar. For a time, Egypt flourished again. Cleopatra sailed to Rome, dazzling its people with her brilliance and luxury. But when Caesar fell beneath the daggers of the Senate, she returned to Egypt. Alone once more, but unbroken. Years later, another Roman would enter her life, Mark Antony, the warrior and loyal friend of Caesar. He summoned her to the city of Tarsus, demanding explanation for Egypt's role in Roman affairs. And Cleopatra arrived not as a subject, but as a goddess, sailing upon a golden barge, dressed as Isis, the goddess of love and rebirth. Antony, the soldier who had faced death 100 times, was defeated by her eyes. Their love would ignite a new legend and a new war. Cleopatra and Antony ruled together from Alexandria, blending Roman power with Egyptian majesty. They had 3 children: Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. In Egypt, Antony was hailed as a new Osiris, Cleopatra as the living Isis. But in Rome, whispers spread like fire. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, claimed Antony had been bewitched, enslaved by an Eastern queen. The Senate declared war, not on Antony, but on Cleopatra herself. On September 2nd, 31 BC, the world held its breath. At the naval battle of Actium, the forces of Antony and Cleopatra faced Octavian's fleet. As the tide turned, Cleopatra's ships fled, and Antony, desperate, followed her retreat. It was the beginning of the end. When Octavian's legions reached Alexandria, Antony fell upon his own sword, believing Cleopatra dead. As he lay dying, he was brought to her side. They embraced one last time, surrounded by the echoes of an empire. On August 12, 30 BC, Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, took her final breath. Some say she held a venomous asp, symbol of divine royalty. Others that poison was hidden in her cosmetics. No one truly knows. But as Plutarch wrote, she lay in all her beauty, though she was dying. Her body was laid beside that of Mark Antony. And with her death, the light of the pharaohs was extinguished. Egypt became a province of Rome. Cleopatra was more than a queen. She was the bridge between two worlds, the last breath of the ancient gods and the first whisper of a new age. She ruled through intelligence, diplomacy, and the art of presence. She was not simply a seductress, as history too often remembers her, but a strategist, a scholar, and a symbol of power in a world ruled by men. Her story, tragic, glorious, and eternal, reminds us that even as empires fall, the memory of greatness endures. Age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. William Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra. Thus ends the tale of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt and the first immortal woman of history.